Archaeologists are trained to explain the past. But sometimes, the past refuses to cooperate. Around the world, researchers have uncovered ancient structures that quietly challenge everything we think we know about early civilizations. Massive stones fitted together so precisely that even modern tools struggle to replicate the technique. Monuments aligned with celestial events that require years of careful observation. Symbols and patterns whose meanings remain completely unknown. These discoveries don't simply tell a story of ancient life, they raise unsettling questions about ancient knowledge. Were these achievements the result of forgotten techniques? Lost traditions passed down through generations? Or fragments of understanding that disappeared as civilizations collapsed? Then each excavation reveals another piece of a puzzle that historians still cannot fully assemble. And the deeper we dig into ancient history, the more we begin to realize something surprising. The ancient world may have been far more advanced and far more mysterious than we ever imagined. In the high mountains of the Andes, there is a quarry that looks as though time suddenly stopped. Gigantic stones lie half-cut from the mountain. Deep channels slice through solid rock. Some blocks are almost fully separated, yet they were never moved. It is as if an ancient workforce vanished in the middle of their work, leaving behind a silent construction site carved directly into the earth. No temples stand here, no cities were built on this spot, only enormous stones, waiting. For archaeologists, the Yanangu quarry megalith is not just another ancient site. It is something far more rare, a place where we can see the unfinished process behind the creation of megalithic architecture. Here, the mountain itself became a workshop for shaping stones that would weigh tens of tons. But this quarry raises unsettling questions. How did ancient engineers cut such massive blocks with such precision? How were stones this large meant to be transported across the brutal terrain of the Andes? And perhaps the greatest mystery of all, why was the entire quarry abandoned midway through the work? Centuries later, the silent stones of Yanangu still wait in the mountains, preserving a moment when ancient technology, ambition, and mystery collided. The Yanangu quarry lies in the Andean highlands of Peru, within a region long associated with the remarkable engineering traditions of the Andes. The surrounding landscape is dramatic. Steep ridges, thin mountain air, and rocky slopes that make modern construction difficult even with contemporary machinery. Yet ancient civilizations thrived here for centuries, and this region sits within the broader cultural sphere of the Andean world, where powerful societies such as the Inca and their predecessors constructed monumental stone cities, including Sacsayhuaman, Ollantaytambo, and Machu Picchu. These sites are famous for their precisely cut megalithic blocks fitted together without mortar. The stones are so tightly joined that even a thin blade cannot slide between them. For decades, archaeologists have wondered where many of these stones originated and how they were shaped before being transported across rugged terrain. The Yanangu quarry appears to provide an important clue. Scattered across the site are partially carved blocks and extraction trenches, preserving the physical evidence of a stoneworking industry that operated at a remarkable scale. Unlike many famous archaeological sites that were rediscovered by explorers, Yanangu was initially known to local communities who had long been aware of the strange carved stones embedded in the mountainside. However, systematic archaeological attention came much later. Researchers studying regional construction patterns began investigating ancient quarry locations that might explain the origin of megalithic stones used in Andean architecture. During surveys of remote valleys and highland ridges, archaeologists identified Yanangu as a potential extraction site due to the presence of unfinished blocks still attached to the bedrock. Once systematic documentation began, the importance of the site quickly became clear. Here, unlike in finished temples and fortresses, an archaeologist could see the entire process of stone extraction frozen in time. Trenches carved into rock faces, half-detached boulders, and tool marks preserved on surfaces allowed researchers to reconstruct the techniques ancient workers may have used. But instead of providing simple answers, the quarry raised deeper mysteries. The most astonishing feature of Yanangu is the scale and precision of the stones being extracted. Some blocks measure several meters in length and are estimated to weigh anywhere from 20 to more than 100 tons. These are not small building stones, but enormous megaliths comparable in size to those used in the greatest stone structures of the Andes. Even more puzzling is the precision visible in the quarry cuts. Many surfaces show straight, parallel grooves where workers carved channels into the rock before separating the stone block from the mountain. The lines appear deliberate and evenly spaced, suggesting a carefully planned extraction process. Traditional explanations suggest that ancient workers used simple stone hammers and metal chisels made from bronze or copper alloys. Experimental archaeology has demonstrated that such tools can indeed shape stone, but recreating the deep, straight quarry cuts seen at Yanangu requires enormous time and effort. This has led some researchers to propose that ancient quarry workers possessed far greater knowledge of stone mechanics than previously assumed. By carefully placing grooves and wedges, they could control how the rock fractured, allowing massive blocks to detach cleanly without shattering. Still, the precision raises an intriguing question. How did ancient engineers determine exactly where to cut and how much force to apply without modern geological tools? Over the past several decades, archaeological teams have carried out surveys and limited excavations at the quarry. Their work has focused on documenting tool marks, mapping the positions of unfinished stones, and analysing the surrounding terrain. One key discovery has been the presence of wedge-shaped grooves carved into the bedrock. These grooves likely held wooden wedges that were hammered into the stone. When soaked with water, the wood would expand, generating pressure that gradually forced the rock to split along the carved line. This technique is known from other ancient quarrying traditions around the world, including in Egypt and the Mediterranean. However, the arrangement of wedge slots at Yanangu suggests a sophisticated understanding of stress distribution within the stone. The spacing between grooves appears intentional, allowing the fracture to propagate in a controlled direction. Archaeologists have also identified partially shaped blocks still attached to the quarry floor. These unfinished stones provide valuable clues about the stages of production. First, workers carved deep channels around the outline of the block. Next, they inserted wedges along the base to separate it from the bedrock. Finally, the block would be roughly shaped before being transported to construction sites elsewhere. But here lies one of the greatest puzzles. Many of these blocks were never moved. Throughout the quarry, enormous stones remain exactly where they were being worked. Some are almost completely detached, while others appear only partially cut. The scene resembles a massive industrial project suddenly halted in mid-operation. Why would such a large and organised quarry be abandoned? Several theories have been proposed. One possibility is that political upheaval disrupted construction projects that depended on the quarry. In the Andes, large building programs were often linked to state power and ritual activity. If leadership changed or the political system collapsed, the demand for stone might have vanished. Another theory suggests logistical challenges. Transporting multi-ton blocks across steep mountain landscapes required complex infrastructure, roads, labour forces and sled systems. If transportation routes became impractical or dangerous, quarry operations might have ceased. There is also the possibility that a new quarry source was discovered that offered easier extraction. Yet none of these explanations fully account for the sudden and widespread abandonment visible at Yanangu. Beyond the extraction techniques themselves, Yanangu raises several additional questions. First is the matter of transportation. Moving stones weighing dozens of tons through the Andes would have required remarkable coordination. Researchers believe ancient builders used a combination of sleds, ropes, ramps, and human labour. But the precise methods remain debated. Second is the issue of organisation. A quarry of this size implies a large workforce operating under centralised control. Workers would have needed food supplies, shelter, tools, and supervision. This suggests the existence of an advanced administrative system capable of managing large-scale engineering projects. Finally, the quarry provides insight into the broader technological achievements of ancient Andean societies. Often portrayed as technologically simple due to the absence of iron tools or wheeled vehicles, these cultures nonetheless created some of the most impressive stone architecture in human history. Sites such as Sacsayhuaman contain stones weighing more than 100 tons fitted together with extraordinary precision. The Yanangu quarry may represent one of the crucial stages in the process that made such monuments possible. Today, the silent stones of Yanangu remain scattered across the mountainside, untouched for centuries. They preserve a rare snapshot of ancient engineering, a moment when massive blocks were being carved from the earth itself, destined for monumental architecture that would define an empire. Yet the quarry still guards many secrets. How did ancient workers achieve such precision using limited tools? How were the gigantic stones transported across treacherous mountain landscapes? And what event caused this immense quarry to fall silent? For archaeologists, Yanangu is more than just an abandoned stone pit. It is a window into the ingenuity of ancient civilizations, one that reminds us how much of their knowledge and technology still remains hidden beneath the surface of history. In the heart of modern Rome, surrounded by traffic, ancient walls, and centuries of European history, stands something that seems completely out of place. A gleaming white pyramid rising sharply into the sky. It looks as though it has been transported directly from the deserts of Egypt. Yet this structure is not in Giza or Luxor. It stands in the capital of the Roman Empire. Known today as the Pyramid of Cestius, the monument has puzzled historians for generations. Why would a Roman official build his tomb in the form of an Egyptian pyramid? How was it constructed so quickly? And what secrets might still lie hidden inside its ancient walls? More than 2,000 years after its construction, the Pyramid of Cestius remains one of the strangest and most intriguing relics of ancient Rome. The pyramid stands in southern Rome, and beside the historic gate known as Porta San Paolo, and incorporated into the massive defensive system called the Aurelian Walls. Unlike the massive stone pyramids of Egypt, the Roman pyramid is smaller but strikingly steep, rising about 36 meters high, with a base nearly 30 meters wide. It forms a sharply pointed silhouette that contrasts dramatically with the classical domes and columns surrounding it. What makes its presence even more surprising is that pyramids were never part of traditional Roman architecture. Roman tombs typically took the form of circular mausoleums or monumental temples. The sudden appearance of a pyramid in the middle of Rome suggests a powerful cultural influence from elsewhere. That influence likely came from Egypt itself, which had recently fallen under Roman control after the defeat of Cleopatra VII and the annexation of Egypt into the Roman Empire. Egyptian religion, art, and symbolism quickly became fashionable among Rome's elite, and the Pyramid of Cestius may be the most dramatic example of that fascination. Although the pyramid had always remained visible in Rome, its true purpose was not immediately clear in later centuries. During the Middle Ages, when many ancient monuments had been forgotten or repurposed, people speculated wildly about its origin. Some believed it was the tomb of the mythical founders of Rome. Others imagined it was a monument built by mysterious Eastern kings. The truth began to emerge when scholars studied the inscriptions carved into the marble surface. These inscriptions revealed the identity of the man buried there. Gaius Cestius, a Roman magistrate and member of a religious college known as the Septemviri Epulonum. The text also contained an astonishing detail. It stated that the pyramid had been completed in just 330 days. For historians and engineers alike, this claim immediately raised questions. Could such a monumental structure truly have been built in less than a year? The most remarkable mystery surrounding the Pyramid of Cestius is its extraordinary speed of construction. According to the inscription, the tomb was built in under a year, an astonishing feat even by modern standards. The pyramid structure consists of a concrete core, a hallmark of Roman engineering, covered by large slabs of brilliant white marble. This combination allowed Roman builders to create monumental structures much faster than traditional stone block construction used in Egypt. Yet even with Roman concrete, constructing a 36-metre pyramid in such a short period would have required a massive and highly organised workforce. Some historians believe that hundreds of workers must have laboured simultaneously, working day and night under strict supervision. Others suggest that the main structural core was erected rapidly, while decorative elements were completed later. Regardless of the exact method, the speed of construction reflects the remarkable logistical abilities of Roman engineering. Yet the pyramid's design also differs dramatically from its Egyptian counterparts. Its sides rise at a steep angle of roughly 70 degrees, far sharper than the pyramids at the Giza Pyramid complex. This suggests that Roman architects were not attempting to replicate Egyptian pyramids precisely, but instead adapted the concept into a distinctly Roman interpretation. For centuries, the interior of the pyramid remained sealed and mysterious. In the 17th century, explorers finally entered the structure by carefully cutting a passage through its walls. Inside, they discovered a surprisingly small burial chamber, measuring roughly 6 by 4 meters. The chamber's walls were decorated with delicate fresco paintings, including winged figures representing victory and other symbolic motifs common in Roman funerary art. These paintings confirm that the tomb belonged to an elite Roman citizen rather than an Egyptian priest or foreign ruler. However, one critical element was missing: the burial itself. No sarcophagus, human remains, or grave goods were found inside the chamber. This absence immediately raised the possibility that the tomb had been looted in antiquity. Grave robbing was common in the ancient world, and even well-sealed tombs often fell victim to thieves, searching for precious metals and jewellery. Despite the missing burial, the frescoes themselves provided valuable insights into Roman artistic techniques of the late Republic. Archaeologists were able to analyse pigments and painting styles, revealing how Roman artists blended Greek, Egyptian, and local artistic traditions. Beyond the speed of construction and the missing burial, several other mysteries surround the Pyramid of Cestius. One of the most intriguing is the choice of architectural symbolism. Why did a Roman official choose a pyramid rather than a traditional Roman tomb? Some scholars believe it reflects the powerful cultural fascination with Egypt that swept through Rome after its conquest. Egyptian temples, obelisks, and religious cults became fashionable among the Roman elite. Building a pyramid may have been a way for Cestius to associate himself with the mystique and eternal symbolism of Egyptian funerary traditions. Another mystery lies in the pyramid's remarkable preservation. Many ancient Roman structures were dismantled during the Middle Ages so their stone could be reused in new buildings, yet the Pyramid of Cestius survived almost untouched. The reason appears to be a fortunate coincidence. In the 3rd century CE, the Emperor Aurelian incorporated the pyramid into the city's defensive walls. Once it became part of the Aurelian walls, the structure was protected as a vital component of Rome's fortifications. This unexpected decision saved the monument from destruction and allowed it to survive into the modern age. Today, the Pyramid of Cestius stands as one of the most unusual monuments in Europe. It is neither Egyptian nor fully Roman, neither a typical tomb nor an ordinary architectural experiment. Instead, it represents a moment in history when cultures collided, when the power of Rome absorbed the traditions of distant civilizations. The monument reminds us that the ancient world was far more interconnected than we often imagine. Ideas, religions, Cestius, and artistic styles travelled across continents, shaping the ambitions of rulers and officials who sought to leave their mark on history. Yet despite centuries of study, the pyramid still raises unanswered questions. Why exactly did Gaius Cestius choose this extraordinary design? How precisely did Roman engineers organize its rapid construction? And what happened to the man who was meant to rest forever inside its walls? Standing silently beside the ancient gates of Rome, the Pyramid of Cestius continues to guard its secrets, an Egyptian-style monument in the heart of the Roman world, and a reminder that even the most familiar cities can still hold ancient mysteries waiting to be understood. Along the windswept coast of North Africa, where the Mediterranean Sea meets the edge of the Sahara, lies the silent skeleton of a forgotten metropolis. Massive marble columns rise from the sand. A towering Roman theatre still faces the sea, its stone stage frozen in time. For nearly 2,000 years, this city watched ships cross the ancient world. This place is Sabratha, once one of the richest ports of the Roman Empire. But beneath its elegant ruins lies a deeper mystery. Archaeologists have discovered signs that this city was not simply another Roman settlement. Its harbour seems to have vanished. Its buildings show engineering precision that still puzzles modern researchers. And beneath the waves nearby, sonar scans hint at structures that may once have formed part of a massive ancient port complex. How did this city rise so quickly, and why did it disappear? Sabratha lies on the Mediterranean coast of modern-day Libya, roughly 70 kilometers west of the city of Tripoli. In antiquity, it formed part of a powerful regional network known as the Tripolitanian cities, along with Oea and Leptis Magna. The location of Sabratha was strategically perfect. It sat exactly where the maritime trade routes of the Mediterranean met the long caravan trails crossing the Sahara Desert. From the south came caravans carrying gold, ivory, exotic animals, and rare woods from the deep interior of Africa. From the north came Roman merchants transporting wine, olive oil, ceramics, and luxury goods. This crossroads between continents turned Sabratha into one of the most important commercial ports of the ancient world. Yet the ruins we see today represent only a fragment of what once existed. Although the ruins of Sabratha were known locally for centuries, systematic archaeological exploration did not begin until the early 20th century. During the Italian colonial period in Libya, archaeologists launched large-scale excavations beginning in the 1920s. As sand and debris were cleared away, an entire Roman city slowly emerged. They uncovered temples, baths, markets, villas, and wide colonnaded streets. But the most breathtaking discovery was the massive Roman theatre, one of the most spectacular surviving theatres in the entire Mediterranean world. Standing more than 20 metres high and decorated with elaborate marble carvings, the theatre revealed that Sabratha had once been not just a trading hub, but a wealthy and culturally vibrant city. Yet the more archaeologists uncovered, the more puzzling the site became. Ancient Roman texts describe Sabratha as a thriving maritime port. Ships from across the Mediterranean supposedly docked here daily, carrying goods and travellers from distant lands. But today, something strange is missing. The harbour itself is largely gone. archaeologists searching along the coast have struggled to find the large harbour installations that would normally accompany a city of this scale. Only scattered remains of breakwaters and submerged stone blocks have been identified. Some researchers believe that parts of the ancient harbour may now lie underwater due to shifting coastlines and rising sea levels over the past 2,000 years. Others suggest that earthquakes or coastal erosion may have destroyed the port structures. Recent underwater surveys using sonar technology have revealed what appear to be stone formations beneath the seabed near Sabratha. These formations may represent ancient harbour walls or docks buried beneath centuries of sediment. But the full structure of the harbour, and how it once functioned, remains one of Sabratha's greatest unsolved mysteries. Over nearly a century of excavations, archaeologists have uncovered remarkable evidence of Sabratha's wealth and sophistication. Among the most important discoveries were the remains of luxurious Roman villas decorated with intricate mosaic floors. These mosaics depict scenes of mythology, hunting, and marine life, constructed from thousands of tiny coloured stones. Where excavations also revealed temples dedicated to Roman and Phoenician gods, including sanctuaries devoted to Hercules and the Egyptian deity Isis. These temples demonstrate how Sabratha served as a cultural meeting point where religious traditions from multiple civilizations blended together. Large public baths were also uncovered, complete with advanced heating systems known as hypocausts, which circulated hot air beneath the floors to warm entire rooms. Even more impressive were the remains of monumental architecture built from imported marble and limestone. The precision with which these heavy stones were cut and assembled suggests a level of engineering skill that rivaled the greatest cities of the Roman world. Artifacts discovered during excavations include coins, statues, inscriptions, ceramics, and tools, offering glimpses into everyday life in this once thriving city. But even these discoveries only deepen the puzzle. Despite decades of research, several key questions about Sabratha remain unanswered. One mystery concerns the sudden decline of the city. Historical evidence suggests that a powerful earthquake struck the region in the 4th century. Some buildings were damaged, but the city appears to have continued functioning afterward. Yet by the early medieval period, Sabratha had largely faded from history. Another mystery involves the engineering techniques used in some of the surviving structures. The Roman theatre, for example, demonstrates extraordinary acoustic design. Even today, a person speaking softly on the stage can be heard clearly in the highest rows of seating. See how ancient builders achieved this level of acoustic precision without modern measurement tools continues to fascinate engineers and historians. There's also the question of the city's true size. Excavated areas reveal only part of the ancient settlement. Large sections of Sabratha may still lie buried beneath sand, modern structures, or even underwater. Some archaeologists believe that what has been uncovered represents only the ceremonial and public centre of a much larger urban complex. High in the rugged mountains of southern Africa, where wind sweeps across endless grasslands and stone ridges rise from the earth like ancient scars, lies a landscape filled with silent geometry. From the ground, these shapes appear almost meaningless. Low circles of stone scattered across hills and valleys. But when seen from the sky, they reveal something far more astonishing. A vast network of ruins stretching across the land like the faint blueprint of a forgotten civilization. These are known as the ruins of Maluti, a mysterious complex of ancient stone structures scattered across the Maluti Mountains, near the modern borders of South Africa and Lesotho. Thousands of circular enclosures, stone walls and pathways spread across the terrain, forming patterns that can only truly be understood from above. Who built them? Why were they constructed across such an enormous landscape? And how did ancient builders organize structures on a scale so vast that their true design remained hidden until the age of aerial photography? For archaeologists and historians, the Maluti ruins represent one of southern Africa's most intriguing archaeological puzzles, an ancient stone network whose purpose and origins remain only partially understood. The ruins lie across the dramatic Maluti-Drakensberg mountain region, a high-altitude plateau that forms part of the natural border between South Africa and Lesotho. This landscape is characterized by rolling grasslands, steep basalt cliffs, and wide valleys carved by rivers over millions of years. Today the region appears remote and sparsely populated. Small villages and cattle herders dot the landscape, and for centuries the stone circles scattered across the hills were largely ignored, blending into the natural terrain. But when researchers began mapping the area using satellite imagery and aerial surveys, they realised something extraordinary. The structures were not isolated ruins. Instead, they formed a massive interconnected network of stone settlements, stretching across hundreds of kilometres. Some researchers estimate that the total system of stone walls and enclosures in this region may extend for thousands of square kilometres, making it one of the largest ancient settlement landscapes in Africa. Although local communities had long been aware of the stone circles, their true scale was not recognised until the late 20th and early 21st centuries. Early travellers and colonial-era explorers occasionally recorded the presence of stone structures in the mountains. However, these reports described them as small pastoral ruins, simple cattle enclosures built by early farming societies. Everything changed when aerial surveys and satellite imagery revealed the full picture. From above, archaeologists could suddenly see patterns invisible from the ground. Circular structures were linked by long stone walls. Clusters of settlements formed larger complexes. Pathways appeared to connect different areas in deliberate alignments. Instead of random pastoral remains, the ruins looked increasingly like the remnants of a vast organised settlement system. This discovery transformed the Maluti ruins from a local curiosity into a subject of serious archaeological interest. What makes the Maluti ruins truly extraordinary is the sheer scale and organisation of the stone network. Across the landscape are thousands of circular stone enclosures, typically measuring between 10 and 30 metres in diameter. Many of them are connected by carefully constructed stone walls that can extend for hundreds of metres. The walls were built using dry stone construction, a technique in which stones are carefully stacked without mortar. Despite this seemingly simple method, many of these walls have remained standing for centuries, resisting erosion, storms, and seasonal floods. Even more intriguing is the pattern of settlement clusters. In many areas, large central enclosures are surrounded by smaller ones, suggesting a hierarchical layout, perhaps indicating communal spaces, livestock areas, and living quarters. Long stone lines appear to form boundaries between different zones, creating something that resembles a planned settlement landscape rather than scattered villages. From satellite images, the entire system almost resembles a giant network or grid, spreading across valleys and hillsides. Some researchers believe this landscape may represent an extensive agropastoral civilization, where communities practiced large-scale cattle herding and farming while organising settlements according to terrain and water access. But others argue that the scale of the network raises deeper questions. Why construct such an enormous system of stone enclosures across such a vast region? And how were ancient builders able to coordinate construction across distances that stretch far beyond a single village or tribe? Over the past decades, archaeologists have conducted multiple surveys and excavations within the Maluti region in an attempt to understand the ruins. Excavations inside several stone enclosures have revealed fragments of pottery, stone tools, and traces of ancient hearths, clear signs that these structures were once inhabited. Radiocarbon dating of charcoal and organic material suggests that many of the settlements were occupied between approximately the 10th and 17th centuries. These dates correspond with the expansion of Bantu-speaking agro-pastoral communities across southern Africa, groups known to have practiced cattle herding and farming. Researchers also found evidence of livestock management, including cattle dung deposits preserved in soil layers within some enclosures. This supports the theory that many of the stone circles functioned as cattle kraals, protective enclosures used to guard livestock at night. Yet even with these discoveries, the puzzle remains incomplete. Excavations have revealed human activity, but they do not fully explain the massive scale of the settlement network. The density of ruins suggests that this landscape may once have supported a surprisingly large population. In recent years, archaeologists have begun using advanced technologies such as remote sensing, GIS mapping, and aerial drone surveys to analyse the Maluti ruins in greater detail. These techniques allow researchers to map thousands of structures across large areas and study how they relate to natural features such as rivers, grazing lands, and mountain passes. Early results suggest that settlements may have been strategically positioned along routes used for seasonal cattle movement, as well as near fertile valleys suitable for agriculture. Some clusters of ruins appear to be located along ancient pathways that may have served as trade routes or migration corridors. This suggests that the Maluti region may once have functioned as a dynamic cultural landscape, one shaped by generations of pastoral communities adapting to a challenging mountainous environment. Despite growing archaeological evidence, many aspects of the Maluti ruins remain mysterious. One unresolved question concerns the true population size that once lived in the region. The density of settlements suggests that thousands, perhaps tens of thousands, of people may have occupied the landscape at different times. Another mystery involves the long stone walls that connect multiple enclosures. In some areas, these walls stretch across hillsides for remarkable distances, raising questions about whether they served purely practical purposes or also had social or territorial significance. There are also ongoing debates about whether certain alignments of structures may relate to astronomical orientations, although this idea remains speculative and requires further study. Perhaps the greatest mystery is how such an extensive settlement network could remain largely overlooked for so long. For centuries, the stone circles blended quietly into the landscape, their patterns invisible without the perspective of modern aerial technology. Only now are researchers beginning to understand that the Maluti Mountains may preserve the traces of a vast and sophisticated cultural landscape, one built slowly over generations by communities whose history was never fully recorded in written form. Imagine a kingdom so powerful that it once controlled the flow of wealth across an entire desert, yet today almost no one remembers its name. Hidden among towering sandstone cliffs and silent valleys of the Arabian desert lie the ruins of a civilization that flourished more than 2,000 years ago. A place where merchants once gathered, caravans arrived from distant lands, and kings ruled over one of the most important trade routes of the ancient world. But scattered across these ruins are clues that refuse to fully explain themselves. Gigantic lion carvings stare out from cliffs as if guarding forgotten tombs. Hundreds of inscriptions remain etched into stone, written in a script scholars still struggle to fully understand. Entire sections of an ancient city still lie buried beneath layers of sand untouched for centuries. This was once the capital of a powerful desert kingdom, a civilization that controlled trade, built monumental tombs, and left behind mysteries that still challenge archaeologists today. Its name was Dadan Kingdom. The ruins of this forgotten kingdom lie within the oasis valley of Al-Ula in northwestern Saudi Arabia, a region surrounded by sandstone mountains, vast desert plains, and dry river valleys carved by ancient floods. At first glance, the landscape appears harsh and unforgiving, yet thousands of years ago this oasis became one of the most strategic locations in the Arabian Peninsula. Dadan sat directly along the ancient incense route, a network of caravan trails connecting southern Arabia with the Mediterranean world. For centuries, caravans carrying frankincense, myrrh, spices, precious metals, textiles, and rare goods travelled across thousands of kilometres of desert, and nearly all of them passed through this valley. Because of this strategic position, Dadan transformed from a simple oasis settlement into a wealthy and influential desert kingdom, flourishing roughly between the 9th and 2nd centuries BCE. Unlike later famous desert cities such as Petra, however, Dadan remained largely forgotten by history, its ruins slowly swallowed by sand and time. Although local inhabitants had long been aware of the ancient ruins scattered throughout the Al Ula Valley, the site first drew international scholarly attention during the 19th century, when explorers travelling through Arabia began reporting strange inscriptions carved into rocks and cliff faces. These markings were unlike Arabic or any other known regional script. Early researchers soon realised they belonged to a completely different writing system now known as Dadanitic. During the 20th century, systematic archaeological expeditions began mapping the site and documenting hundreds of inscriptions scattered across the desert landscape. Excavations gradually revealed that the ruins represented the capital of a powerful ancient kingdom. Archaeologists uncovered city walls, temples, statues, administrative structures, and vast burial complexes carved into nearby cliffs. Yet even after decades of study, only a small portion of the ancient city has been excavated, leaving large sections still hidden beneath layers of sand and sediment. Among the most striking features of the ancient city are the famous lion tombs, carved directly into the sandstone cliffs surrounding the oasis. These monumental tombs are guarded by relief sculptures of lions carved into the rock face, each stretching nearly a metre in length. The lions appear powerful and stylized, their bodies carved with remarkable precision, despite the limitations of ancient tools. What makes these sculptures especially fascinating is their unusual artistic style. They do not perfectly match the artistic traditions of neighbouring civilizations such as Mesopotamia, Egypt, or the Levant. Instead, they appear to represent a unique artistic tradition developed within the kingdom itself, possibly influenced by multiple cultures connected through trade. The purpose of the lions also remains uncertain. Some scholars believe they symbolize royal power or divine protection over the tombs of elite rulers. Others suggest they may represent sacred animals or mythological guardians associated with ancient Arabian religious beliefs. Despite decades of research, their exact meaning remains one of the most enduring mysteries of the site. Archaeological excavations carried out over the past several decades have revealed that Dadan was far more complex than previously imagined. Researchers have uncovered the remains of large stone temples that likely served as religious centres for the kingdom, along with defensive walls and gates that once protected the city. Residential districts show evidence of a thriving population that included merchants, artisans, and administrators managing trade across the desert. Extensive cemeteries carved into surrounding cliffs reveal elaborate burial traditions and hierarchical social structures. Perhaps the most important discoveries have been the inscriptions scattered throughout the ruins. Hundreds of texts written in the Dadanitic script have been recorded on stone blocks, statues, and rock surfaces. These inscriptions include royal names, religious dedications, records of offerings to deities, and fragments of historical events. However, many of the texts are extremely short, sometimes consisting of only a few words, which makes reconstructing the full language and history of the kingdom extremely difficult. Even today, linguists are still working to fully understand the structure and vocabulary of the Dadanitic language. In recent years, new archaeological campaigns have begun using modern technology to explore the site in greater detail. Satellite imaging, aerial surveys, and ground-penetrating radar have revealed hidden structures buried beneath the desert floor. Digital scanning techniques are helping researchers preserve fragile inscriptions and reconstruct damaged carvings. Each new excavation season brings additional discoveries, including previously unknown temples, streets, and burial structures that hint at the true scale of the ancient city. Yet these discoveries also raise new questions. One of the greatest mysteries surrounding Dadan is how such a prosperous kingdom could thrive in such an extreme desert environment. Maintaining agriculture, water supplies, and large populations in an arid landscape would have required sophisticated knowledge of oasis management and resource distribution. Another puzzle involves the engineering of the cliffside tombs themselves. Some burial chambers are carved high into vertical rock faces, positioned dozens of meters above the valley floor. Exactly how ancient workers managed to carve these chambers with such symmetry and precision remains unclear. Equally mysterious is the sudden decline of the kingdom. Historical evidence suggests that Dadan eventually lost its political dominance and was replaced by another Arabian power known as the Lihyanite Kingdom, which later controlled the region. Yet there is little evidence of catastrophic destruction, large-scale warfare, or invasion at the site. Instead, the city appears to have gradually faded from prominence, perhaps as trade routes shifted or new political alliances emerged across the Arabian Peninsula. The once powerful capital slowly declined until it eventually disappeared from historical records altogether. Carved directly into a towering limestone cliff in the deserts of Arizona is a structure that should not exist. Nearly 90 feet above the ground, a 5-story complex of stone rooms clings to the rock face as if it had grown naturally from the mountain itself. There are no visible roads leading to it, no ancient cranes or scaffolding preserved nearby, and no clear explanation for how tons of building material were lifted to such a height centuries ago. Yet the structure has survived for more than 700 years, enduring floods, scorching desert heat, and powerful storms. Known today as Montezuma Castle National Monument, this cliffside dwelling raises a question that continues to puzzle archaeologists. How did an ancient society, using only simple stone tools and natural materials, manage to construct what appears to be a multi-story apartment complex suspended high above the valley floor? Montezuma Castle sits in the lush valley of the Verde Valley, an unexpected oasis in the middle of the arid deserts of the American Southwest. Today the region appears quiet and remote, but centuries ago this valley supported a surprisingly vibrant agricultural society. A perennial water source, the Verde River, flows through the valley, providing fertile soil and reliable irrigation. This made the region an ideal location for prehistoric farmers who cultivated crops such as corn, beans, and squash. Yet despite the fertile environment below, the builders of Montezuma Castle chose to construct their homes high above the valley floor, embedded within a natural alcove in the cliff. Indeed, the dwelling itself stands about 80 to 90 feet above the ground and contains approximately 20 rooms spread across 5 levels. The structure is built primarily from limestone blocks, mud mortar, and wooden beams cut from local sycamore trees. At first glance, the design appears simple, but a closer look reveals a carefully planned architectural system. From its elevated position, the inhabitants could observe the entire valley. Any approaching visitors, friendly or hostile, would be visible long before they reached the base of the cliff. At the same time, the height protected the settlement from seasonal flooding of the Verde River. This unusual placement raises an important question. Was Montezuma Castle built merely for safety, Or was there a deeper cultural or symbolic reason for placing an entire residential complex within the walls of a cliff? Although indigenous communities in the region had long known about the cliff dwellings, the site was largely unknown to the outside world until the 19th century, when American explorers and settlers began moving into the Arizona territory. Early European American travelers were astonished by what they saw. Suspended in the cliff face was a multi-story stone structure that appeared far more sophisticated than they expected from prehistoric societies of the region. Because many settlers believed the ruins must have been built by the legendary Aztec Emperor Montezuma II, the site was mistakenly named Montezuma Castle. Archaeologists later proved that the structure had nothing to do with the Aztecs, and was in fact built centuries earlier by the Sinagua people. Recognizing the extraordinary importance of the site, the United States government established Montezuma Castle National Monument in 1906, making it one of the first protected archaeological monuments in the country. Since then, the cliff dwelling has become one of the most remarkably preserved prehistoric structures in North America. The greatest mystery of Montezuma Castle lies not simply in its age, but in its engineering. The Sinagua builders constructed the entire complex using only stone tools and organic materials. They had no iron or steel tools, no draft animals to haul materials, and no mechanical lifting devices. Yet they somehow transported construction materials to a vertical height of nearly 90 feet. Archaeologists believe wooden ladders were used to reach the dwelling, but these ladders have long since disappeared. Without physical evidence of scaffolding or construction platforms, the exact building process remains uncertain. Even more intriguing is the building's environmental design. The cliff alcove functions as a natural climate control system. The thick limestone walls absorb heat during the day and slowly release it at night, stabilizing interior temperatures. In the scorching summers of Arizona, when temperatures outside can exceed 100 degrees Fahrenheit, the rooms inside the cliff dwelling remain noticeably cooler. During the colder desert nights of winter, the same rock walls retain warmth. Modern architects often describe Montezuma Castle as an early example of passive climate engineering, a concept widely used today in sustainable architecture. But the Sinagua people developed this system nearly 8 centuries ago. Over the past century, archaeologists have conducted multiple studies and excavations around Montezuma Castle. Although the structure itself has been carefully preserved, nearby areas have revealed valuable clues about the lives of its inhabitants. Excavations uncovered pottery fragments, stone tools, woven textiles, and farming equipment. These artifacts suggest that the community was not isolated but part of a broader trade network connecting different cultures across the southwest. Some pottery styles resemble those found in distant regions hundreds of miles away, indicating that the Sinagua people participated in long-distance exchange networks. Archaeologists also discovered remains of ancient irrigation canals in the valley below. These canals once diverted water from the Verde River to agricultural fields, supporting a relatively large population for the region. Perhaps most fascinating is evidence suggesting that Montezuma Castle was only one part of a much larger settlement. Additional structures, now known as Castle A and other nearby ruins, indicate that the cliff dwelling was part of an extensive community that flourished for several centuries. Yet by the early 15th century, the settlement was mysteriously abandoned. Despite decades of research, several key questions remain unanswered. One mystery concerns the social function of the cliff dwelling. With only 20 rooms, as a Montezuma castle could not have housed a very large population. Some researchers believe it may have served as a specialized residence for elite families, religious leaders, or community authorities. Another puzzle involves the sudden disappearance of the Sinagua inhabitants. Archaeological evidence shows no signs of violent destruction or warfare. Instead, it appears the residents gradually left the site around the early 1500s. Possible explanations include prolonged drought, environmental changes, resource depletion, or migration into other regional cultures such as the Hopi people. However, the exact reason remains uncertain. There is also an enduring question about cultural continuity. Many Hopi oral traditions describe ancestral migrations through the region, and some scholars believe the Sinagua people may have eventually joined the ancestors of modern Pueblo communities. If true, Montezuma Castle would not represent a vanished civilization, but rather a chapter in a much longer story of cultural transformation across the American Southwest. Across the silent dunes of Central Asia, where endless desert winds erase the footprints of history, archaeologists uncovered the ruins of a city that should not have existed. Hidden beneath the sands for nearly 4,000 years, the ancient settlement of Gonur Tepe emerged not as a simple village, but as a sprawling urban centre filled with temples, fortified walls, royal tombs and mysterious ritual chambers. Even more puzzling, it belonged to a civilization that left behind almost no written records, no known rulers, and no clear connection to the great empires of its time. How could such a sophisticated society rise in the middle of an unforgiving desert, and then vanish so completely that the world forgot it ever existed? Gonur Tepe lies deep within the Karakum Desert of modern-day Turkmenistan, in a region once nourished by the ancient Murghab River delta. Today, the landscape appears desolate. Vast plains of sand broken only by sparse vegetation and the occasional dry riverbed. Yet nearly 4,000 years ago, this region was dramatically different. Seasonal waterways and fertile soils supported agricultural communities, allowing a remarkable civilization to flourish in what archaeologists now call the Bactria-Margiana Archaeological Complex, often abbreviated as BMAC. At the heart of this ancient network of settlements stood Gonur Tepe, a massive fortified city covering more than 25 hectares. From the air, the ruins reveal a striking geometric layout. Thick defensive walls enclosing a central citadel surrounded by residential districts, ceremonial compounds and extensive burial grounds. The scale alone suggests that Gonur Tepe was not a remote outpost, but one of the primary urban centres of its era. For centuries, the ruins of Gonur Tepe remained hidden beneath layers of sand and time. The modern world first became aware of the site in the early 1970s, when Soviet archaeologists began surveying the Murghab Delta using aerial reconnaissance and satellite imagery. Among them was the Greek-Soviet archaeologist Victor Sarianidi, who would devote decades of his life to uncovering the secrets of this lost civilization. Initial surveys revealed faint outlines of ancient structures buried beneath the desert's surface. Excavations soon followed, and what began as a modest investigation quickly expanded into one of the most important archaeological projects in Central Asia. As layers of sand were carefully removed, massive mud brick walls, ceremonial chambers, and elaborate tombs began to appear, revealing a city far more complex than anyone had anticipated. Over the following decades, Sarianidi and his team would uncover hundreds of structures, gradually piecing together the story of a civilization that had remained invisible to history. Perhaps the most astonishing aspect of Gonur Tepe is its advanced urban design. The city appears to have been meticulously planned, with organised districts, defensive fortifications, and large ceremonial complexes. The central citadel, protected by multiple concentric walls, suggests both political authority and military awareness. But the greatest mystery lies in the religious structures discovered within the city. Archaeologists uncovered a series of temples containing fire altars, ritual platforms, and specialised chambers that appear to have been used for ceremonial purposes. Some researchers believe these may represent some of the earliest physical evidence of fire worship, possibly linked to religious traditions that later evolved into Zoroastrianism. If this interpretation is correct, Gonur Tepe may have been one of the earliest centres of a spiritual tradition that would later influence cultures across Persia and Central Asia. Yet the absence of written texts leaves many questions unanswered. Who were the priests who conducted these rituals? What beliefs guided their ceremonies? And why did they choose fire as a sacred symbol? Excavations at Gonur Tepe have revealed an astonishing variety of artifacts that demonstrate the sophistication of this ancient society. In the city's vast necropolis, archaeologists discovered thousands of graves, including elaborate royal tombs filled with extraordinary objects. Within these tombs were intricate gold ornaments, finely crafted silver vessels, carved stone seals, and beautifully painted ceramics. Some burials contained ceremonial chariots and the remains of sacrificed animals, suggesting complex funerary traditions and strong beliefs about the afterlife. Equally intriguing were the discovery of specialized ritual vessels and residue traces indicating the preparation of sacred beverages. Chemical analysis of these residues revealed compounds from plants such as ephedra, leading some researchers to propose that the inhabitants of Gonur Tepe may have brewed a ritual drink similar to the legendary soma described in ancient Indo-Iranian texts. And other discoveries hint at long-distance trade networks. Precious stones, metals and artistic styles found at the site suggest connections with distant regions, including the Iranian Plateau, Mesopotamia, and possibly even the Indus Valley civilization. Each excavation season has added new pieces to the puzzle, revealing a society that was technologically capable, culturally complex, and deeply interconnected with the wider ancient world. Yet despite decades of research, the greatest questions surrounding Gonur Tepe remain unanswered. Unlike many ancient civilizations, this culture appears to have left no decipherable writing system. Without written records, archaeologists must reconstruct its history solely from architecture, artifacts, and burial practices. Another enduring mystery concerns the sudden decline of the city. Around 1700 BCE, Gonur Tepe appears to have been gradually abandoned. Some researchers believe climate change may have altered the course of the Murghab River, depriving the region of its essential water supply. Others suggest migrations, conflicts, or economic collapse may have played a role. Whatever the cause, the once thriving city slowly faded into silence, its walls crumbling and its streets buried beneath drifting sands. For thousands of years, Gonur Tepe remained hidden, its people forgotten, its achievements erased from historical memory. Only in the past half-century has the world begun to rediscover the remarkable civilization that once flourished there. Today, the ruins stand as a haunting reminder that entire cultures can rise, achieve extraordinary complexity, and disappear without leaving a name behind. And as archaeologists continue to excavate the sands of the Karakum Desert, Gonur Tepe still holds secrets waiting to be uncovered. Secrets that may one day reshape our understanding of the ancient world.